Now listen, as Drake just got into yet another lawsuit, and this time it is over stealing music. We got no time to waste, so before we go any further, make sure to leave a like, and really leave that like because I'm gonna say it. Which now when it comes to Drake! Listen, the cupcake is really in trouble this time, and with the way the lawsuits are starting to stack up, and with the versatility within the paperwork that Karen is getting, well listen, something so strange is happening, and we are really on the brink now of finding out the worst for Drake. So if you are ready to see why Drake has gotten hit with a major, massive, and potentially career-changing lawsuit that may expose a lot more if this can end up in a win, well listen, things are about to spiral bad. So you know what to do, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and we are gonna waste no time for the complainers, as we got a lot of questioning to do, which right now we are gonna jump into what this lawsuit is about, which all comes down to Drake's record, What Did I Miss? Well, what's going on here? Well, is that he is now within a copyright lawsuit on the highest level, and it's all because a photographer is alleging that the video made by Drake, and within that cringe music video where Drake was dancing in a freezer and trying to act all cool and trying to convince us that his career was in control and that he was making a comeback, well, he didn't just fail ultimately by making a record that, you know, came on the charts really for a short amount of time and then fell right off and really showed that nobody missed you, Drake, and well, you didn't miss a single thing. But now this comeback record has really managed to just spiral even more, as now being the centerpiece of Drake's whole 2025 effort, it didn't just give him his first failure of a lead single from an album in quite a while, just in terms of staying on the charts and lingering there in the worst way possible. But well, now Drake, the biggest accomplishment it has given you is a lawsuit of this magnitude, which now what the article that has come out to report this, it is coming from one of the highest sources we can get in music, which in general, compared to some of the other stuff we have seen, is just showing the severity of it. So now what this article is telling us, and it's from Billboard by the way, is well telling us that Drake's What Did I Miss video copied a photo by a controversial photographer who, if you remember, and I'm not going to show the photos because they are weird, but with that Balenciaga campaign where they just did some very disturbing stuff that well made a lot of people angry, apparently this is where Drake is getting his inspiration from, and this is who he is copying off. And now the guy who took these photos is sending Drake a lawsuit, which honestly, just with this, I gotta stop for a second, because just with this guy suing Drake of all people, I mean, now while sometimes some of these things have come out against Drake and there's like a person who you genuinely feel bad for, and you can see that they have genuinely been wronged and, you know, they kind of can garner some sympathy. Listen, I'm a man of principle, so there is things important here that need to be addressed and Drake needs to be called out on, which we're gonna go into, but I got absolutely no sympathy for this guy, because with this piece of garbage, who well took some of the most disturbing photos that we have ever seen for any sort of a campaign in years, well, calling out Drake and saying that he stole his work, this is really like a garbage can yelling at another garbage can for being a garbage can. And so now getting into this lawsuit, specifically who this guy is, and I'll probably mispronounce this name, but Gabriel Glamourberti claims that by using the photo, Drake was trying to connect a notorious fashion campaign to Kendrick Lamar's Certified Diss. And so now following that, this is where things get weird, so just listen up and get ready. What is being claimed and what the photographer is now doing, well, is seeking damages from Drake, OVO Sound, Republic Records, and UMG for copyright infringement. And the reason why is that he is claiming that in the What Did I Miss video, in the part where Drake is standing by a pool, and while I can't really show everything too much, but he's standing around the pool with all of the items that he's trying to look tough and intimidating with, and well, there's that whole shot there. Well, what the photographer is claiming is that this is stolen from a book that he made where it's showing men surrounded by a pool, where the photo is showing a guy, which you can see right here. And well, you can't really see because I have to blur a lot of these things, but you can tell that, well, those same items that Drake put there are near a pool. And so just specifically now, with them claiming that Drake is copying the portrait down to the very last detail, including its symbolism, Well, what we can see is that this guy is mad, and he feels like Drake has used his work as a stepping stone to try and create his own creativity. And well, now he is owed something. And so just with all of this, here are my thoughts on this. With the lawsuit itself, I don't know how much ground that this guy actually has to stand on, and well, what Drake will have to stand up to in terms of him trying to say that maybe it's an homage to him as opposed to Drake directly taking from him. Well, listen, in terms of this lawsuit, with the very symbolism and design of what Drake did, while it's very clear that he did rip off the idea of this, I could very well see him losing that just for trying to use another artist's work as a stepping stone to supplement your own creativity and benefit from it, which is, well, what exactly we are seeing here. But now, with that said, I'm going to be honest with you guys, from the actual person who was trying to make this a big deal, which again, it's just a garbage can versus a garbage can, to just the principle of this all in general. What really does entice me about this, and what I really think is the important thing to watch here beyond the actual and specific lawsuit itself, well, is the fact, and this is clear now and you can't deny it, over the last few weeks, we saw 2 lawsuits come out with Drake and Stake. Then we saw 2 lawsuits come out against Spotify, which Drake was the centerpiece of, and they were all about his alleged fake streams and the artificial boosting that they have done to push his numbers falsely. And now, well, after that, after being sued in 2 lawsuits, and while being the centerpiece of 2 more that has major music industry shaking information, and now there is another one where you are being sued for stealing and completely ripping off work that was used in one of your biggest song releases of this year. Have you noticed it? Have you noticed what's going on? Because I'll explain it to you. And for the Drake stans in the back who are still mad and who are still getting mad at me, listen. You gotta get ready for this. I know you don't want to hear it, and it's not that the industry is set up against Drake, and it's not that Drake is getting all of this because he's too powerful and they need to take him down, because otherwise then he's gonna be like MJ, Prince, the Beatles, and every other rapper all combined in once, because that's not what's happening here. I just want to be very clear. But at the same time, what is very clear is that the green light is now on for Drake to just get exposed within the music industry and really be seen and really be called out and tested for, well, just in terms of being one of the biggest pieces of garbage and just one of the biggest grifters and cheaters of the system that has existed maybe ever. Because again, from the way that he has leveraged his influence to get himself in a position like we have seen with everything that's went down with Stake so far, to the fake stuff that we saw with the Spotify stuff, which of course turned him from the Iceman to the Turkey Man, to now the stuff here, which again is giving us direct proof and is a direct reference point to the fact that really with one of the most talked about moments in that whole Iceman episode 1 and in the What Did I Miss video, and well, that was just one of the big things that Drake was trying to use as visual symbolism to send a message to everybody, with that now being clearly seen as something that was ripped from another artist and he got no credit, and now he is very mad. This is all just going to a place where things are getting bad and we are really on the brink of seeing, well, if you couldn't tell, I mean, there's already been 5 in like 2 or 3 weeks, a lot more Drake lawsuits that are really just going to finally see a lot of people who seemingly have been wronged by him or just the machine and system he has created in the case of some of the Spotify stuff, just try to come out and get what they feel are owed, or just try to stand up for the betterment of the music industry and the fairness for all artists and creatives operating in the space as a whole, just in general, because really, and what is just becoming more clear as more and more stuff is being uncovered here, is that Drake hasn't played by the rules, and he has openly done things like we are seeing within this very lawsuit here, that, well, he thought he was going to get a pass for, and that in the past, maybe the labels were actually looking out for him, and they were making sure that stuff like this never really affected him, or maybe they had him covered in some way, shape, or form. And you know, again, if any of these issues arose because they had such a good thing going and they were all winning the grift with Drake at the center of it, they were able to throw these things out easily. But now, of course, as Drake changed the whole dynamic with the label system and with the music industry, when he decided to sue the people that made him the all-time grifter that he became over Not Like Us and its success, which again, when you see stuff like this and see the principle it's setting, it only looks like more and more of a boneheaded move. Well, now here we are. And again, honestly, what I'm just thinking about as this lawsuit is not just coming at Drake, but it's coming at Republic Records and then also UMG, which are Drake's big labels that he works for and that he has been a representative of in this bigger system. What do you also have to wonder about too is now when you look at the whole entire value and just system that Drake represents in their entire grand portfolio and just roster in general now, with all of the trouble that Drake has caused and with the diminishing value of his music success, which again, let's just break down his 2024. He's dropped like over 30 songs at this point, and the only one that had any sort of success was Nokia, and everything else either took more to put out than it actually gave a return for, or it just flopped in general, and like these big Iceman records that there was clearly a lot going into, they missed the mark altogether and they have become some of the biggest Drake flops of all time. So with all of that, and then alongside that, you see Drake suing the label and continuing to make a bigger and bigger mess for them, which in terms of now having to use their lawyers and their resources to defend themselves against their own artist, well, it's creating this complicated circle where they're having to use up more and more resources against Drake. And well, for the problems he is getting into, while at the same time, the music, which is the thing they have always benefited from, well, it's clearly no longer bringing in what it needs to in terms of the new stuff and really anything that is moving numbers and that is making Drake worth anything. Well, it's all from his back catalog and albums like Take Care or Views, which as we saw when the lawsuit documents were coming out and Lucien ended up explaining a lot about Drake and where everything stands in general, well, UMG has heavily invested in Drake's career and they own a lot of the master recordings of his works, which means that they don't really need him for an album like a Take Care to be successful or Views or anything like that. Well, overall, this is the problem with Drake, and I don't think he realized this when he started all of this, but right now, what is becoming so clear is he has absolutely no motion and his entire career is just spiraling and failing out. Well, and again for the Drake fans, don't crash out and don't lose it on me because I'm just telling you the truth. But this guy who was once seen as the golden boy of the industry and who made everybody win and who just gamed the system to all of the power's benefit, he's not that anymore, and it almost seems like they just can't keep up with all the trouble he is causing, and that's just creating a bigger and bigger feedback loop now of just more Drake lawsuits that are exposing more and more about what he has really been doing for all this time. And so really, I think when we just look at the value of Drake in the music industry, people need to understand, despite what his back catalog does in terms of holding so much value in terms of the majority of his streaming numbers coming from that, and well, even the fact that when he drops, he still does get a lot of attention when it initially comes out, well, just because people want to see how bad the mess of what he has created really is. Overall, the combination of being, let's say, a B-list rapper in terms of your profile and in terms of what you bring in, and then having all of this trouble come where you're constantly in lawsuits, you're constantly filing lawsuits on the bosses that have been the ones who have made you what you are and who make your pockets what they have been. And then while you see all that and just see the trouble that he keeps creating and perpetuating, overall, you see why all of this is just such a mess, which is that for Drake, he has become too much trouble for the music industry and nobody really knows what to do. And it just seems like they have flipped the switch against him now. And again, after it looked like he could do no wrong, his numbers were always great, and no matter how bad the music was, nothing was gonna stop. That's all changed, and it's because of the way that he has flipped the dynamic because of his own arrogance and just embarrassment and just patheticness of really losing the entire beef. And you know, let's just say if Kendrick Lamar got a lawsuit similar to this, and somebody said that Kendrick stole their work, although I don't think that that would happen because everything Kendrick Lamar does just seems to be coming from the most authentic place an artist can possibly reach from in this day and age. I bet when you look at, again, the fact that Kendrick Lamar had 4 #1 records across the last 2 years and see how every time he drops, it makes a big deal and there is a bigger and bigger tour to support the music. And well, Kendrick just keeps doing everything right to increase his value as an artist and well, help out whoever's working with him. I bet if Kendrick was in Drake's position here that he would actually have a lot more help and the label would stick up for him more because, again, Kendrick is bringing them in value. And it makes sense to help the people who are helping everybody else. But for Drake, as he has just relied on this system more than anybody else, and now he has become the biggest problem within it. that's over and that's done. And I just think with this What Did I Miss lawsuit, well, in of itself, again, this piece of garbage photographer who did the weird Balenciaga stuff, well, him suing Drake is not the biggest deal or gotcha moment in of itself. The principle for what this is going to cause and what this is going to mean going forward is going to have a massive impact. And again, if you saw the last 5 lawsuits across all these different things and don't think that more are going to come and don't think that they're only going to get worse, because honestly, if we just look at the trajectory of them, well, from claiming that Drake is manipulating his audience to put the worst things onto them, to then saying that Drake has faked 37 billion streams, to now saying that Drake is stealing the very music and stuff that, well, empowers those streams to be faked and the machine to be ran in the first place. Really what we are seeing is step by step Drake get exposed and just see how every facet of his stardom and every facet of what his name is represented, well, it's all just been a lie and it's all coming down now. And honestly, this is just the era we are in, and I think in rap music as a whole right now, as the industry remains quiet, nobody knows how to stop Kendrick Lamar in his run, and just everybody seems like they are only crumbling more and more because of it. I think we are almost in an era where we are, and this is kind of weird to say, and I almost do feel like it's unfortunate to some degree, where we're just going to see more lawsuits come out that are going to expose some of the stuff that's been going on in the industry and that some rappers have just been doing to game the system. And I do think this will go beyond hip-hop, and I do think other artists who have just been puppets and industry plants to the music machine are going to get, well, the energy and lies that they gave to everybody else back to them. But I think for hip-hop and for Drake, this is going to be something that changes his name forever, and that just changes the perception of everything we saw over the last 10 or 15 years overall. And honestly, as Drake is being sued for this, and again, there has been 5 lawsuits, I know, and I think you know, that there's gonna be more. It's gonna be very interesting to see how all of this goes, because again, we really are in the Tupac era, and Drake is only gonna get exposed for stealing more and more music, because we have already seen all the ghostwriter stuff. We have already seen so many people angry that they haven't been credited properly, or that Drake even took some of their music or ideas. And again, we have just seen this kind of cloud over Drake for so long that has been telling us, if you've been paying attention, well, that all this music and all this versatility that people try to praise him for, it's not really real, and it's not really coming from him, as again, Drake has really just been an actor who is impersonating other artists and other people's ideas. Well, you know what? I'm gonna say it again, and for the Drake stans, don't get mad, but I know you will. But for Drake right now, and with these lawsuits, I think we can say all across the board, and with all of them, they are either going to get crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious, or all the above. And so yeah, that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts on this new Drake lawsuit, and let me know where you think all of this is going to go, where all of this is going to end up, and how this is going to evolve for Drake, as now we are at a point where people are seeing and understanding that he is stealing music. Now listen, if you made it to this point in the video, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And now, if you made it to this point, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. It really does support the channel, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day, and I hope you have an amazing weekend. Happy Friday! And so listen, if you want to hang out with me for a little longer and have a little more fun and see how Drake's crash out buddies Rory and Maul destroyed everything they have ever worked for in the span of 24 hours, well listen, we are really seeing hip-hop finally reset, and some of the worst people within it just get called out or ruin their own careers, and it's all going down there. So don't miss that one, and check out the suggested video.